Hello, good evening. I'm glad to be with you tonight. My name is Pastor Paul Berthold, and I'm here to continue our studies. And we are going into Genesis 17 right now. As I believe we already have the screen ready. Okay, we're going into chapter 17. The 17th chapter of Genesis is showing us the covenant. As far as God is concerned, the covenant is almost like a repetition of what God had already told Abraham several times before. He wanted to make sure that Abraham understand that this is something that will not disappear. In fact, the first part of that chapter 17, God is talking about the covenant, and the second part is talking about circumcision. I have one screen for each. This is the first screen here. In Genesis 17, verse 4, God specifically told Abraham, "As for me, the covenant stands." Let me give it to you exactly the way God said it. Maybe that will... God said, "As for me, my covenant is with you." That is to say, no matter what happened, that covenant that God has signed with Abraham will remain throughout the years. In fact, if you look in Psalm 89, you will understand what we're talking about. Psalm 89 is showing how God, no matter what happened, is going to keep that covenant with Abraham. And he mentioned specifically that God is going to unfold everything through David. How David's throne will be a forever throne, a forever kingdom that will last. So we don't have time to go into the Psalms right now, but you can read Psalm 89, and you will see that no matter what happened, God is going to keep his covenant. But first, we're going to go and see who God has the covenant with. This is why I have a chart for you. I have a chart here. You cannot really see the chart. Unfortunately, my cameraman is not here to project it. I'm not sure if the cameraman would come and try to zoom in the chart, if it's possible. The chart is showing you that God has a line, a specific line, through Abraham's children, with whom he has that covenant. And let me show you as the cameraman is trying to zoom in on that chart. As you can see here, Abraham is the father of all nations. That's what God said. God told Abraham that he's going to be the father of many nations. Not all nations, many nations. So we're talking about the Ishmaelites. We're talking about the children of Esau. We're talking about the children of Jacob, and also the 6 sons of Keturah. Okay, the chart is showing us here that Abraham had Ismael by Hagar. He had Isaac by Sarah, and he also had, after the death of Sarah, he had 6 sons by Keturah. That's why you have the Midianites and all those. I know we went over that before, if you want to go and watch the previous videos. So here, we know that the covenant is not with Ishmael, although Ishmael was the firstborn. So Ishmael is out. And I've given you a verse before where it is written that Abraham sent everyone away from Isaac. He gave them whatever he had to give them, all Isaac's brothers, but Isaac was the only one there. So the covenant was with Isaac. Remember, Abraham had Ishmael with Hagar. He had Isaac with Sarah, and he had 6 other sons by Keturah. Well, some theologians argue that Keturah is Hagar. They say that Hagar never got married, and Abraham returned to him, except that they put Keturah. Maybe that was a surname for Hagar, nobody knows, but the Bible is not showing that, so we cannot confirm that. So here we see that Ishmael, not Ishmael, I should say, yes, Ishmael had 12 sons. So Ishmael, we should say, had 12 tribes also, which they were never mentioned in the Bible. All we know is that Ishmael is all the children of Keturah. They all supposed to be the Arab nations. Some people said Arab, some people said Arabs. I said Arab nation. Okay, so we know that Ishmael was eliminated, not part of the line, not part of the chosen that God wanted to deal with. The sons of Keturah also were set aside, and we have Isaac. Now, out of Isaac came Esau and Jacob. That we all know what happened with the between the two of them about the birthright. So we all know that Esau, even though that he was the firstborn, again, we see here that although Ishmael was the firstborn, Ishmael was not chosen. Esau also was the first one. Esau was not chosen. But remember, there is one of the prophecies that specifically said that the younger, the oldest will serve I don't remember, the older will serve the younger. I'll get that scripture for you. Don't quote me word by word for that right now, but I know that that's why some people say that the father, talking about Isaac, he knew that he was not supposed to give Esau the birthright. And some people argue also, some theologians argue, that's why that Sarah, the mother, or rather Rebecca, the mother, turned to what she did, turned to her trick, as far as making sure that the younger Jacob would get the blessing. So here, the real deal started coming out of Isaac, not through Esau, but through Jacob. And that's why God changed Jacob's name to Israel. So Israel is Jacob. And that from there, we can see that God has been dealing with Jacob and the 12 tribes. From there until the book of Revelation, where we're talking about the 144,000, which would be 12,000 out of each tribe, which would equal to 144,000. So we know for a fact that there is a group of those that are elected, or the children of the covenant. There is a difference between Esau and Isaac, and there is also a difference between Ishmael and Isaac. Understand this well, because if you don't understand this, you're going to be all confused when it comes to the elect, because there is a group of people that God called the elect. I've shown that many times before, that many people can be running for an election, for the presidential election, but there would be only one elect. And that elect there was the children of Jacob. It wasn't Esau, it was not Ishmael, it was not the children of Keturah, but it narrowed down to the 12th tribe of Jacob, or the 12 tribes of Israel. Okay. As we can see here, among all of Abraham's children, there were also some of them who were not part of the chosen, and in fact they ended up persecuting the children of Jacob. We're talking about the children of Keturah, or the children of Agar, or the children of Esau. So what we see here is that if you want to confirm what I told you as far as the children of Ishmael, there was children by Keturah also. That would be Genesis 25, verse 1 through 6. And also you have Esau and Jacob, that's Genesis 25, verses 21 through 26. So we must remember that not all the children of Abraham were among the chosen. In fact, they ended up persecuting the children of the promise, as you can see here. I will give you some verses where you can analyze on your own. For instance, one of my videos, the title is "An Enemy Had Done This." An enemy had done this. You can watch it at your time, at your leisure time. It tells you about the tares and the wheat. That's in Matthew 13, verse 25. Matthew 13, verse 25. So here, God had to tell Abraham in so many words not to worry, that as far as he is concerned, his covenant with him remained the same. So when it comes to those children of the promise, saying those children issued out of Isaac, issued out of Jacob, you can see that in Romans 9, verses 7 through 9. So they are counted as the children of the promise. So remember also that Paul was trying to explain to them that not because they are the seed of Abraham are they all children of the promise. You have to understand that now. Abraham had Ishmael. Ishmael is not part of the promise. Remember how Ishmael was born to begin with. Sarah couldn't wait. She was losing faith, and he told Abraham, we have Agar, the Egyptian maid. You might as well give us a child through Agar. So Paul elaborated on that. So not all of the children of Abraham are considered the children of the promise. So it narrowed down from Abraham to Isaac, from Isaac to Jacob. And then to Jacob, it came down to the 12 tribes of Israel, and where we have Jesus in the tribe of Judah. So understand also that when it comes to salvation, try to understand perfectly what I'm saying. When it comes through salvation, we become all children of the promise through Jesus, through the blood of Jesus. As you can see here in Romans 4:11 and in Galatians 3 verses 26 through 29. So it tells us there, by faith through Christ, all those who accept to follow Christ, who accept the sacrifice of the cross, and who decided to follow God's commandments, who decided that we're going to go by faith through Christ, then also you become children of the promises. However, you still have what Paul had already mentioned in, if you want to go through Romans 9 through Romans 11, it tells you that there is definitely a difference between the children of Israel and the Christians. There is a difference, because Paul specifically said, if by the fall of Israel, by the fall of the children of Israel, then everybody would be able to come in through the blood of Christ. He said, wait till God opens, or wait till God take the scale off Israel, the children of the promise, because God promised Abraham that your seed, I will do this, I will do that, and I will be with them. So that's why, we have a lot of controversy, we have a lot of teaching out there, such as one of them is I forgot the name exactly right now, but it's a teaching where they are showing you that God has totally rejected the children of Israel, and they don't exist anymore. So right now, the church has taken over. It's over. Because what is the church? For you to understand what I'm trying to say, the church is the church consists of everybody, pagans, children of Israel, everybody. Remember when Jesus was giving an example that he came for his own did not receive him, and Jesus said, well, so that there may be people in the feast, because it was a parable where the men of the house, where God was giving a feast and invited all the children of the promise, but they did not come. In fact, they rejected Jesus. And Jesus said, go and take everybody, by the roadside, on the highway, everybody. The handicapped, the blinds, bring them all in. So this is what the church consists of. So the church does have children of Israel in it, but the church is an amalgamation of all pagans, everybody. As I can say, if you hear me say that many times, as far as God is concerned, God is not going to be, he's not going to worry about like if you're white, if you're black, if you're yellow, if you're red, you're in the church, because God created everybody. Of course, the devil rebelled and did a lot of things, and threw some tares among the wheat, which you can see in that video that I have. An enemy had done this. Okay, so now, just before we turn to the next screen, I just want to go over this here. When God gets serious, God changes names. Remember that God called Abraham. When God got serious, he changed Abraham. Abraham's name was first Abram. He changed it to Abraham. When God was getting ready to use Jacob, he changed Jacob's name into Israel. Ish means, it's a Hebrew word for man. Ish. Mahel. El, like El Elyon, Bethel. Every time you see El, it's God. So remember what has caused his change of name. There was like a night of wrestling with God. Not wrestling in the sense of blow for blow, but wrestling, pleading with God. Do not go before you. You bless me. So he prevailed. He won. He won the plea. And God said, okay, what's your name? Jacob. Okay, from now on your name is Israel. Ish, man, prevailing, struggling, wrestling with God, and it prevailed. So that's what Israel means. So here, we see here, God will be in the business of changing names. Again, all of us who are here, we're going to have a new names, whether you believe it or not. In Revelation 2, verse 17, it is written that the overcomers, those who overcome, those that endure unto the end, a new name will be given to you. A name that you don't know and nobody knows yet. And also, if you look in Isaiah 62, verse 2, Isaiah prophesied that you will be called by a new name. So you see, the Bible is not a storybook. It's with precision. In every corners you have precision. You have prophecies. That's what God said before. Isaiah is the one who prophesied that. He said, before the thing comes to pass, I would let you know, so that when it comes to pass, when you can see it, you won't attribute it to another God. You will not say, well, how wouldn't God did it? So now let's go to the second screen, which is the last screen. Okay, as you can see here, there is a picture here showing you that to circumcise your heart. That's what that heart on the screen is all about. And it's coming out from Deuteronomy 10, verse 16. Is it 16 or 26? I believe Deuteronomy 10, verse 16. So, what we see here on the second part in Genesis 17, verse 11, God told Abraham that this will be a token between you and I. It's like I'm saying, like we having a covenant, and I pull out a piece of paper, you pull out a piece of paper, and we put everything down, and we write things concerning the covenant, and you keep one, and I keep one, and I say these are our token of the covenant. Some people wrongfully think that that's what it takes to inherit salvation. This is because they don't know what salvation means. Again, the word salvation, I believe it comes from soteria. That's why when people are studying, I believe, soteriology, I don't remember the word exactly, but it's a word that connotes an expression of being freed from something. In other words, when you look at Israel and the Romans were not waiting for salvation, because the word itself means that to set you free. Let me give you an example. Just like in Psalm 118, where it says that the Lord has become my salvation and He set me in a large place. It's like all of a sudden you go from a narrow, straight place where you are confined, you are restricted. You cannot move. It's like you're being enchained by all kind of oppressive spirits. And you are all of a sudden set in a large place. This is what the word salvation came from. So what I'm saying here, salvation is not circumcision. A lot of people wrongfully believe that once if you don't get circumcised, you cannot be saved. And that's exactly why they had that first big meeting in Jerusalem with Peter, James, and everything else, because they were forcing those Christians, those new Christians, to get circumcised. At one time, that Paul was forced to circumcise Timothy for the people to leave Timothy alone, because Timothy was the mother. Timothy, his mother was a Jew and his father was a Greek, or vice versa. But I'm sure his mother was a Jew. So what I'm trying to tell you here, and I'm going to give you verses to back it up. First of all, the real covenant is sealed with the blood of Christ. Remember, the first covenant was with the blood of goats or bulls and things like that. Remember when Moses sprinkled the blood of all the people, and they said, "We'll do as God said." That was a covenant with blood. So circumcision also can be considered a covenant with blood also. So just to throw this in between, a lot of people think that, well, I can do whatever I want and have many women and have do whatever I want, and one day I get up and I marry a young lady and everything is fine. Then some people would just continue on having other women. But remember, that's also some kind of covenant, because when the woman is still has that hymen, I believe, Hymen. You're the first one to cut that hymen, and blood flow down all of a sudden. So that's some kind of blood covenant it is. So a lot of people that's why one long time ago when in the Old Testament someone would marry a young lady who was just presupposed to be a virgin. If that lady is not a virgin, the guy can return the lady back home, saying, well, this lady had already breaking the covenant. You can send the lady back home on this ground. So just to show you that this is not salvation. There's a difference. Salvation can only be accomplished through Jesus. Okay? So let's move on to give you some verses to back it up. If you can go to John 7, verse 19, 22, and 23, where Jesus was reprimanding the Jews, because those Jews were very angry against Jesus for operating a miracle on the day of the Sabbath, on Sabbath day. But then Jesus was saying, I don't understand you guys. You would go and circumcise a man on Sabbath day, and yet you're angry at me for healing a man on the Sabbath day. Furthermore, if you would want to go to 1 Corinthians 7, verse 18 and 19, where Paul was telling those who are having problems, always wrestling, fighting against those of the circumcision, who are fighting against those of the uncircumcision. So Paul said, if any man call unto Christ, if any man call being circumcised, if you're already circumcised, Paul said, let him not become uncircumcised. You don't have to go and say, well, I'm going to be uncircumcised, since they are accepting the uncircumcision. He goes further and said, if any are called uncircumcised, let him not be circumcised. Where Paul had to circumcise Timothy because they wouldn't leave him alone. So Paul goes further into verse 19. We're still reading from 1 Corinthians 7. Verse 19, he said, circumcision is nothing. This has nothing to do with salvation. Circumcision is nothing, and our uncircumcision is nothing. But the keeping of the commandments of God. Jesus himself said, if you love me, keep my commandments. So that's what it all boils down to. Okay, as we're approaching our conclusion, I just want to finish on this note that's coming from Galatians 2 verses 11 through 16, where Peter is writing to the Galatians and telling them that he had to withstand Peter in the face, because Peter and a certain group of other of the Israelites or the Jews. There's a difference also between Israelites and Jews. Jews are those from the tribe of Judah. That's why the name is Ayuda, Jews. That's the tribe that Jesus came from, that Judah. That was actually the last tribe left, because remember, we're not going into this right now, but that's the difference. In other words, you can be an Israelite and you're not a Jew. But you cannot be a Jew and not being an Israelite. You understand what I'm saying here? In other words, out of the 12 tribes, all those 12 tribes are Israelites, children of Jacob, children of Israel. But you can be a Levite without being a Jew. And you can be a Jew without being a Levite. Okay? So Paul was kind of upset because Peter, when Peter was with all the circumcised, those of the circumcision, he would sit down and eat with them with no problems. And now Paul started to eat with the uncircumcised also, those of the uncircumcision. But whenever Peter, I'm talking about, when Peter saw the Jews, then he would get up and stay away from those of the uncircumcision, those who are uncircumcised. And when Paul realized that, Paul was very angry at Peter, and he told them off. You can read it. You can read it in Galatians 2 verses 11 through 16. He said, if you suppose, he told him such thing, not word verbatim, not word for word, but he told him, if you being lights are acting like this, what about them? So, because Paul, when he was among those of the circumcision, he would act like he didn't know those of the uncircumcision. But when he was with the uncircumcision, he would eat with them. Okay, so this is just to show you that there are going to be other things which would be, I would say, insignificant to salvation. That's why I always say that I'm not going to make a big deal for someone who is talking about something such as you have to prayed 5 times a day to be saved, something insignificant. But when it comes to Jesus, when it comes to the road to salvation, which is only one way to salvation, then we have a problem there. Then I'll have to object. Then I'll have to fight against that. Okay, so here we have covered chapter 17, and we realize that chapter 17, the first half of it is talking about the covenant that God keep reiterate to Abraham, and the second part is circumcision. And hopefully for those who are not familiar with the Bible, you will take the time to look at the verses. And we will be coming back next time with chapter 18. And also what I wanted to add is that I will be from time to time saying something to encourage those in Haiti, for the sole purpose that the last one I sent, I had a good response. A lot of people were interested to know, to find out what's going on there. So every now and then in between, I will send something to elaborate on Haiti, the people there. Okay, may God bless you.